Welcome to the Deep Dive. Now, this deep dive is sponsored by our friends at Stonefly. They're leaders in enterprise storage, backup and disaster recovery, AI storage, and cloud solutions.
That's right.
And if you're looking for really secure ransomware-proof storage, you should know Stonefly sells air-gapped and immutable storage. You can reach them at sales@stonefly.com to set up a demo.
Definitely worth checking out.
Okay, so let's dive in. Today, we're tackling something huge. Securing our digital lives just feels more and more critical.
It really does.
And we're zooming in on identity and authentication, especially with, all this data flying around and these super sophisticated ways people can fake things now.
Exactly. And we've been looking at some really interesting material, kind of covering two big areas here. First, how we try to figure out if it's still you using your phone after you've already logged in.
Right, beyond the lock screen.
Yeah. And second, this frankly kind of startling rise of tech that can create fakes. Like really convincing fakes of people, of events. It's wild.
Okay, so our mission today then, let's really try to unpack why the old ways of securing our phones are, well, shaky. And then explore these newer ideas, like how devices might continuously know it's us. And then, we got to plunge into synthetic media, deepfakes. Understand how they're made, the threats, and crucially, what we can maybe do about it.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's start with the basics then. Traditional mobile security, it feels like we're still stuck with passwords, PINs, maybe patterns.
Pretty much. And the research shows just how weak that leaves us. Users pick really, really simple stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 password, easy screen patterns.
Guilty as charged sometimes. It's just faster.
It is. Convenience is a huge factor. We saw stuff showing people see unlock screens as a real hassle. Like they can spend almost 9% of their total phone time just unlocking the thing.
9%. Seriously. That's a lot of time just getting past the gate.
It really adds up, and it definitely pushes people towards easier, less secure options. But here's the real kicker, the main vulnerability the material points out. Once you've used your PIN, your fingerprint, whatever, most phones just stack. Stop checking. They assume it's still you until it locks again.
Okay. So I unlock it, put it down, someone leans over.
Exactly. Or someone sees your PIN, they pick it up, and boom, full access. Your data is just sitting there if that first step is bypassed, or you're just not, super careful every single second.
That gap, that shows why we need something, smarter, something more.
And that something more is where this idea of continuous authentication comes in.
Okay, continuous. So, the phone is constantly checking, it's me, in the background somehow.
That's the goal. Continuous, or sometimes called active authentication, keeps monitoring the user after that initial login. It's not a one-time check. It's ongoing.
Oh, how? Without me constantly having to, scan my face or type my PIN again, that would drive me nuts.
Right. No, it works implicitly. It uses the sensors already packed into your phone accelerometers, gyroscopes, the touchscreen itself, to pick up on your unique physiological and behavioral patterns. Biometrics, basically.
Okay, so what kind of patterns? The material mentioned touch dynamics, like how I swipe.
Exactly like how you swipe. It's surprisingly detailed. It looks at how you interact with the screen, not just where you tap, but the speed, the pressure, how much of your finger touches the screen, the angle, even how you're holding the phone at that moment.
So my specific, maybe slightly clumsy way of scrolling, that's unique.
It seems to be. Studies show pretty distinct patterns even when different people do the exact same swipe. Things like the velocity mid-swipe, how long you press, the pressure, all these little data points build up a kind of profile, a behavioral fingerprint almost.
That's pretty wild. And gait dynamics, how I walk can identify me.
Yeah, using those motion sensors, the accelerometer and gyroscope, your phone can sense the subtle rhythm and force of your steps as you move. Researchers analyze this data looking for consistent patterns.
Okay, and what about gait dynamic images, or GDIs? That sounds technical.
It's basically a way to visualize that walking data. The cool thing is they're designed to be less affected by how you're carrying the phone, pocket, hand, bag. It makes the gait recognition potentially more reliable in real life.
This all sounds much less annoying than constantly unlocking. What do people actually think? Are users open to this?
The study suggests they are, yeah. Quite receptive, actually. People tend to see these implicit methods as more secure and more convenient because it just happens without them doing anything.
Makes sense.
One study found, 73% felt it was more secure than the old ways, and 90%, a full 90%, would consider using it.
Wow, 90% is huge. But there have got to be concerns, right? What if it gets it wrong?
Absolutely. Concerns definitely came up. About a quarter, 27%, worried about false accepts the phone thinking someone else is you.
Yeah, that's bad.
And detection delay, how quickly it notices it's not you that worried 22%. And then the flip side, false rejects the system locking you out. That annoyed about 35% of people.
Oh, yeah, getting locked out of your own phone constantly. That would kill the convenience pretty fast.
Totally. So the research points out we need more work to make these methods really robust, minimize those errors. And there's a big privacy question, too.
How so?
Well, if this really detailed behavioral data needs to go to some third-party service for authentication, who controls that profile of how you swipe, how you walk? It's very personal data.
Right. That's a really important point. Okay, so phones might get smarter about knowing it's us. But let's shift gears, because it's not just who is using the device, it's what we're seeing on it.
Exactly. The content itself.
And that's where synthetic media and deepfakes come crashing in. This feels like a whole other level of challenge.
It absolutely is. While we're trying to lock down the device user, the information environment on the device is getting, well, manipulated in increasingly sophisticated ways.
Synthetic media, deepfakes, we hear these terms all the time. Can you break down the difference? What's the core threat here?
Sure. So synthetic media is kind of the big umbrella term. It's any media, image, video, audio that's created or tweaked using digital tools, including AI, but sometimes even simpler edits, cheek fakes.
Okay, so manipulated media in general, and deepfakes are.
Deepfakes are a specific type of synthetic media. They use deep learning, that's a powerful kind of AI, to create really believable fakes of things that never actually happened. Fake video, audio, images, even text.
And the real danger is not just the tech, it's us, right? Our tendency to believe our eyes and ears.
That's a huge part of it. The material really stresses this. The threat isn't just how good the tech is, it's our natural bias to trust what looks and sounds real. A deep fake doesn't need to be flawless to fool people and cause real harm.
Yeah. There seems to be some debate, though, about how bad the threat is right now.
Yeah, you see different takes in the material. Some call it an urgent problem, others more like, let's get ready. But everyone agrees on one thing. It's getting easier to make them.
It used to sound like spy movie stuff. Only governments could do it.
Right. But that's changing fast. Making deepfakes takes less skill, fewer resources than it did even a few years ago. That lower barrier to entry is why the concern is growing so much.
So how are they actually made? What are the tricks?
Several key techniques get mentioned. One big one is face swap.
Like those fun filters, but way more realistic.
Exactly. But using powerful AI like autoencoders or deep neural networks to make it look seamless. Snapchat, TikTok filters kind of made the basic idea mainstream, even doing it live.
Okay, swapping faces. What else?
Lip syncing. This is about making someone look like they're saying something completely different. Often uses specific AI like recurrent neural networks. The material mentions Wave 2 lip, which is apparently really good. It can work with any speaker's voice and make the lips match accurately.
Wow, so you feed it audio, and suddenly a video of anyone looks like they're saying those words. That's potent.
Very. And then there's the puppet technique. This lets you basically control someone's body movements in a video, make them do things they never did. This often uses GANs.
GANs. Okay, that sounds complex. Can you give us the simple version of what a GAN does?
Sure. Think of it like two AIs learning together by competing. One AI, the generator, tries to create fake images, fake video clips.
Okay.
The other AI, the discriminator or adversary, its job is to get really good at spotting the fakes. It compares the generator's fakes to real examples.
And they push each other to get better.
Exactly. The generator tries harder to fool the discriminator gets better at catching the fakes. This back and forth forces the generator to make incredibly realistic stuff until the discriminator basically can't tell the difference anymore. And GANs can be used for all sorts of content, not just faces.
Okay, face swap, lip sync, puppet technique, GANs. Put it all together, make it easier to use. Sounds like a recipe for trouble.
It can absolutely be weaponized. Deepfakes are particularly worrying because they look so real, much harder to spot than, say, a badly photoshopped image. The material groups the threats, looking at national security, business, and society.
Let's dig into those scenarios. What kind of threats are we talking about for national security or law enforcement?
Well, imagine a deepfake video of, like, a police chief saying something really inflammatory to incite unrest. Or producing fake evidence, maybe faking climate data, or creating a fake alibi video for a court case.
Faking evidence. Wow, that could just shatter trust in the justice system.
It's a huge concern. Also mention deepfake kidnapping scams. Criminals create fake proof-of-life videos to trick families into paying ransoms.
Oh, that's horrifying. Preying on fear like that. What about businesses? commerce.
Lots of risks there, too. Corporate sabotage, spreading fake, damaging news about a competitor, enhanced scams like that CEO audio deepfake.
The one telling someone to wire money.
Yeah. Imagine getting a call that sounds exactly like your boss telling you to make an urgent transfer. It could bypass things like voice authentication that some banks use.
Chilling.
Totally. Other risks include faked videos of accidents to create liability issues or fake announcements from executives designed to manipulate stock prices.
And then the impact on us, on society, on individuals.
This is where it gets really personal and often devastating. Cyberbullying using fake images or videos to ruin reputations. We saw that reference to the cheerleading case where deepfakes were alleged. It highlights how even if imperfect, they can cause chaos.
But the most common use.
Yeah.
It's pretty grim, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. The material states something like 95% of deepfakes are non-consensual pornography, mainly targeting women. The impact is just horrific.
There was a case study mentioned.
Yes, Noah Martin, targeted as a teen. When she spoke out, the attacks got worse, including deepfakes. She talked about how hard it was to get the stuff taken down, the lack of laws back then, and how it affects her life, her reputation, jobs, forever.
That's just awful. Such a violation with lasting scars.
It really drives home the human cost. Another threat mentioned, child predators using realistic, young-looking deepfake avatars online to trick kids.
It seems like these attacks follow a pattern.
Often, yeah. The material outlined a typical flow. Starts with intent, someone decides to cause harm, then research gathering photos, videos of the target, then creating the deepfake, training the AI, generating the fake media, then disseminating it, spreading it online, and finally, viewer response hoping people believe it and react.
So given how easy this is becoming and how bad the harms can be, how do we even start to fight back? It feels overwhelming.
It does, and the material is clear. There's no magic bullet. We need a layered, proactive approach, not just trying to catch fakes after they're already out there causing damage.
Okay, so what layers are we talking about?
Well, first, legal and policy. We need laws that specifically target malicious deepfakes, making it illegal to create and spread them with intent to harm, and making sure people know there are consequences.
Putting some real teeth into it.
Exactly. Then organizations need to be ready. Companies, public figures. They need plans for handling a deepfake crisis. That means monitoring their online presence, having authentic photos and videos ready to counter fakes, maybe even using tech to analyze facial movements for detection.
Being prepared before the storm hits. What about the tech side? Building tools to spot them.
Yeah, developing detection tools is ongoing, but it's an arms race. The fakes get better, the detectors have to keep up. So, importantly, there's a shift towards authentication.
Authentication? How's that different?
Instead of just focusing on finding fakes, we focus on proving what's real. Think digital watermarks, secure chains of custody for media. Initiatives like the Content Authenticity Initiative are working on standards so you can verify where a photo or video came from. Secure communication channels also help.
Proving the positive instead of chasing the negative. I like that. It feels more foundational.
It does. And another huge piece is societal education, media literacy, critical thinking. We need to teach people how fakes are made, what clues to look for, not just tell them, be careful.
Are there specific clues, things you can actually look for?
Yeah, the material listed some for video or images. Weird blurring, unnatural skin, odd shadows or lighting, maybe eyes that don't blink right, jerky movements. And always ask, does this context even make sense?
And for audio fakes.
Listen for choppy sound, robotic tone, weird phrasing. Again, context is key. Does this sound like something they'd actually say? Could they answer follow-up questions if it were live?
The big challenge with education is always reaching enough people, getting them to engage.
That's definitely a hurdle mentioned.
What about the platforms? Social media, where this stuff spreads.
Big responsibility there. Platforms integrating detection tools, having clear policies, acting fast to flag or remove harmful synthetic content. They're key distribution points.
And finally, what about the victims? Especially for that horrific, non-consensual stuff.
Supporting victims is crucial. The harm is immense. Getting content removed is incredibly hard. Finding who did it is hard. The material even floats the idea of government agencies potentially helping, like they do with child abuse material, using tech to proactively find and take down formerly identified malicious content.
Are there places victims can turn to now?
Yes, thankfully. The material lists several options. Law enforcement, the FBI Cyberwatch, IC3, the SEC if it's financial fraud, reporting to the platforms themselves. Also, support organizations like the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, NTAB, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, CyberSmile, IdentityTheft.gov, and Google has tools to help remove non-consensual images.
Okay, so it really takes everyone, laws, tech, companies, schools, platforms, support groups. It's got to be a coordinated effort.
Absolutely.
An idea, the liar's dividend. What's that about?
Yeah, the liar's dividend, it's kind of a nasty side effect. Because deepfakes are getting so common and believable, people can start dismissing real things, authentic videos or audio, just by saying, oh, that's probably a deepfake.
Wow. So actual evidence of wrongdoing could just be waved away because the possibility of faking it exists.
Exactly. You don't even need an actual deepfake to exist. Just the awareness that deepfakes are possible allows bad actors to muddy the waters and deny reality. It erodes trust across the board in media, in institutions, in evidence itself.
That's deeply worrying. It makes truth itself feel slippery.
It's a potentially massive consequence, undermining the basis for informed public discussion.
Okay, so we've gone from how our phones might subtly check if it's us holding them, all the way to these incredibly powerful tools for faking reality and the huge challenge that poses. It's really clear that digital identity, digital security, it's not just about passwords anymore. It's about whether we can even trust what we see and hear.
Yeah, the threats are evolving constantly, getting more sophisticated. Our responses have to adapt just as fast and on multiple fronts.
So it leaves us with a big question, maybe for you listening. In a world where tech can bend reality like this, where trust feels fragile, how do you figure out what's real and what's your role in maybe stopping the spread of fakes and misinformation?
Something to think about.
Definitely. And remember, this deep dive was sponsored by Stonefly leaders in enterprise storage, backup and disaster recovery, AI storage, and cloud solutions. If you need that secure, ransomware-proof, air-gapped, immutable storage, check them out.
Stonefly.com.
Or email sales@stonefly.com to schedule a demo. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.